Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out, www.thebestdampodcast.tv. Follow me, Instagram, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, at The Real Best Damn, and wherever you're watching from, please make sure to hit the like, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, share this link, get it out there, spread it far and wide. And remember to subscribe, click that bell, that way you guys can get all of the notifications. And keep in mind, guys, that we are viewer powered, so consider donating and supporting today. PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Cash App, Facebook Messenger Pay, and to everybody that does give and support me, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much gratitude I have for you guys. Just period. Man, today has been a doozy. I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into it, right off of the rip. I have had an emotional day today. Um, whew. I don't even know where to start. Uh, and I know I'm not the only one. I feel the energy is it's prominent right now on the earth, and I'm fucking excited. Um, and it's got me like emotional. It's crazy. It's like you know, how else can I say it? But like God is here. Like, and I feel it, and I don't know how to explain it to people. I don't know how to say it to people, except I know. And today, this huge cloud was lifted off of my eyes, and my heart was opened, and I watched a couple other different people's streams. I watched Jacob Israel earlier. I watched Derek Bro's Global Witness earlier, and I mean, he was just emotional, and he was like having all these reconciliations with people, and it was just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I have I've never felt something quite like what I have today. Um, as far as gratitude goes, like I feel like I am just so grateful to be alive, so grateful for each and every one of you, so grateful for every experience in life that I've ever had. And wow, that's all I can say is uh, we are at an amazing time, and I think it's going to be a lot more positive than what people can even imagine. I don't think that the God that we have in our minds and our hearts and our perceptions is the true nature of God, you know. And in a season of judgment, will there be suffering? I'm sure there's some rotten people on the earth that's done some pretty rotten things, and the scales are going to be evened out. So people are going to have to go through their own trials and tribulations, and people are going through that right now. But those who have like stood strong and worked hard to just try to be good people, I feel like things are about to get a lot easier for all of you, and like there's being a path that is being cleared for each and every one of you guys to really be prosperous, abundant, and to, you know, to have all your hopes, your dreams, anything that you can imagine or conceive, like fulfilled. And I really genuinely believe that. I will put a link to the Discord server after the video is over, Michael. I'll pin it in the top of the comment section. Buffer? I don't see no buffering on my end. Everybody, please hit the like if you can. Yeah, it's yours. It's cool though. I do want to let everybody know that I started this channel years ago, and it was built off of, you know, like my belief in God. Um, I was at a really, really low point in my life, and I wanted proof that it was real. So I prayed a very, very sincere prayer, and I was just like, you know, if you are real, I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth about everything. I want to know the truth about Jesus. I want to know it all. And, if you are real, then I want you to use me in the most powerful way. It was like 2 weeks later, I was like kicking it at home, and I had this dream, really strange dream, like in an in-between state where I was watching on a television, and it was the Pope and Barack Obama. And I heard this little voice, and it said, "And the beasts of the earth and the beasts of the sea shall come together." And I woke up, and I go walking into my living room, and I flip on the television, and the first thing that pops on the television screen was Pope Francis comes to Philadelphia. And him and Obama were like shaking hands on the TV screen. I thought, well, that's strange. Never had an experience like that. And then 2 weeks later after that, that's when I had the dream that basically changed everything for me. I was in a room, and I was looking out a window, and there was a bunch of people in the room, and they were all listening to me. I was looking out the window, and I was turning around, and I was telling everybody what was going on, as I looked out, and the sky turned red outside of the window. And my children were with me, and everybody in the room turned demonic. I could tell they wanted to hurt me, wanted to kill me, wanted to do bad things to me. But I walked out of the room nonetheless, and like they just parted, like the Red Sea or something. Like they just couldn't touch me. They couldn't put a finger on me. And I walked into this giant ark, and I looked around, and to my left, I seen fireballs raining down. I don't know if it was plasma, if it was asteroids, if it was comets. Everything looked really tattered and destroyed already, like like there was a war or something. And then as I scanned across the horizon, I seen this giant rock or a moon that was broken into like 4 pieces, and it had already hit the earth. And then out of nowhere, I heard that voice again, but in this dream it said, "Everything that can be shaken will be shaken." And then out of nowhere, it looked like Jupiter. A giant planet just popped up and covered the entire sky, and the whole earth just shook. And I mean, every building crumbled like sand. The ground opened up all over the place, and people were so terrified. In this dream, it was like disturbing. But I didn't move. My kids didn't move. I was holding a girl's hand, and she had a kid, and they didn't move. But everybody else was in really bad shape. And then as the planet covered the sky, this voice come booming from behind it, and it said, "Trust God, John." And it snapped me out of the dream, and I'm like standing in the hallway in the middle of my house, don't know how I got there, and tears are like profusely running down my face, and the only words I could even utter were "thank you." And today, when I had the experience that I've had today, that's what it reminded me of. Like that experience. It's like a spirit so powerful that it overruns your emotions in a good way. Like the amount of gratitude that you have, the amount of thanks that you have, it's just humbling, and it's really powerful. And, I feel like everybody right now should be incredibly grateful for everything that they have in their life, every person they have in their life, and really just cherish, all the people and all the love that you have, because each and every person is a blessing, and the gift of life really is a blessing. And the time that we have together, learning together and growing together, is also a blessing. And I think it's pretty crazy that we have a creator that loves us so much that he would go to the lengths to create a unique individual experience, specially tailored to each and every one of us. Like in such a way designed specifically for our growth and evolution and to get the most refined, best version of us possible in the end. And there's no telling how many lifetimes, how many experiences we've done this, or if this is the only one, I don't know. But I can just say that that's a really loving creator. It's a really loving creator. And I think that each and every one of us, when we are able to tap into that, we will find out that we are all very truly loved and that we're all very truly special. So, I love you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sorry, it's been quite the day today. So with that said, I do want to thank all of you guys for joining me. Ask you please to hit that like button for me if you're in the chat. Hit the thumbs up for me. Share this link on your social media groups and all of that. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the stories we're going to talk about. A lot of it's going to be some space stuff tonight. A lot of asteroids, comets, celestial bodies, and, movement, glacial ice movement. And, there's a lot of signs that things are about to rock and roll. And I kind of knew that when Jupiter went retrograde, considering Jupiter was what looked like the planet in my dream, that we were probably going to rock and roll. And I told you guys that this new moon was going to be powerful. And I guess I underestimated how powerful it was going to be for me individually. If you can, please support, donate, send positivity, prayers, love, whatever you can. Thank you so much. And let's jump into this. Your thoughts keep telling you to get a more refined butt. You need to jog and do squats. Oh, come on now. Don't ruin my golden moment. If you got, I'm sure your butt's refined enough. Asteroids to zoom past Earth on August 14th. 5 back-to-back space rock flybys expected in 5 days. Friday, August the 12th. With the Perseus meteor shower and the Saturn approach lined up, August seems like a perfect month to do some stargazing for space enthusiasts. But while these events are distant and harmless, you might also want to keep an eye out for some sinister cosmic bodies that will lurk dangerously close to the Earth over the next few days. As per NASA's asteroid watch, the Earth will see 5 almost back-to-back, count them 5 asteroid approaches in the next 5 days. Out of these, at least 3 will be colossal, plane-sized, and will bring a shiver to the researchers monitoring them as the cosmic rocks rendezvous precariously close to our planet. The biggest of the lot will be the Mammoth, 110 feet wide, which is huge. 2022 is that OT1 asteroid that will come within 4.7 million kilometers of our planet during the early hours of Sunday, August the 14th. And that's that golden number, man. That 4 million kilometers, 4 million miles. So I'm just saying, it's maybe something to keep an eye out on. The space rock will be traveling at a blazing 5.7 kilometers per second as its closest approach, which will be around 3:23 a.m. Indian time. This equates to around 20,520 kilometers an hour. For reference, the NASA X-43, an extremely experimental unmanned aircraft that remains one of the fastest vehicles ever created, still only achieved around 11,000 kilometers per hour at maximum speed. According to NASA, an asteroid of this size can leave a Paris-sized crater if it hits the Earth. However, current models do not indicate that there is any likelihood of that happening in spite of the precariously close approach. The 100-foot wide 2022 PK1 asteroid, the second largest of the lot, was only 5.2 million kilometers away when it passed by our world on August the 11th. The remaining asteroids include the 53-foot 2015 FF that will zoom past Earth on August 12th, 2022 OT1 on August 14th, and the 71-foot 2022 OA4 on August 14th, and the 93-foot 2022 PW on the 16th. NASA's Asteroid Watch tracks asteroids and comets that come within 7.5 million kilometers of our planet, which is about 19 and a half times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Any object larger than 150 meters at approach the Earth within the distance is classified as a potentially hazardous object, and their interaction with our gravity at this range can spell disastrous consequences if they lay undetected. So there you have it. And look, not just that too. We got Comet Swift-Tuttle too, which is bringing the Perseids. So we've got a lot of space stuff going on. I mean, I really would watch the skies. Impacts from interstellar objects should leave very distinct craters. In recent studies submitted to the Earth and Planetary Astrophysics, a team of researchers from Yale University investigated how to identify impact craters that may have been created by interstellar objects. The study is intriguing as the examination of ISOs has gained notable interest throughout the scientific community since the discovery. Subsequent research of Oumuamua and Comet 2 Borisov in 2017 and 2019, respectively. In their paper, the Yale researchers discussed how the volume of impact melt within the fixed diameter craters could be a possible pathway for recognizing ISO craters, as higher velocity impacts produce greater volumes of impact melt. Oumuamua and Borisov were landmark discoveries, says Samuel Cabot, a PhD candidate in the Department of Astronomy at Yale University. They have generated a considerable response in the astrophysics community. At present, there is no theory that adequately explains every aspect of Oumuamua. The strongest arguments to date point to a completely new type of astronomical object beyond the asteroids and comets we are familiar with. Comet Borisov was also peculiar since its makeup was different from virtually every comet in our own solar system. The fact it was ejected from its original system relays some information about the earliest stages of the planet forming. You see the impact crater right there. And I've told you guys, asteroid impacts, meteor impacts, if we think about plasma and the flow and circulation of energy within a cosmic cycle, right, and the fluctuation in the magnetic field and solar activity shifting into maximum and coronal mass ejections, which is just plasmatic ejection, right, into a weakened state of a magnetic field, one that's in flux, right? This cycle, which we see Steve is throwing up all types of crazy auroras right now. So there's lots of gas that's being trapped up in the ionosphere, creating that greenhouse effect. I believe that what's happening is that plasma is hardening on its way back down, becoming mineral and metal, and that's what creates meteorites, possibly even asteroids. I don't know, right? But don't look up. Exactly, don't look up. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Asteroids may shoot pebbles into shallow temporary orbits, Baldwin believes. OSIRIS-REx saw this happening. An odd meteorite suggests why and how. In 2019, scientists clocked something they'd never seen before. An asteroid named Bennu appeared to be popping off swarms of pebbles. Research published Thursday may go some way to explain why. And remember, I just did a show the other day, and we were showing what the most probable asteroids that were to hit, and Bennu was one of them, right? And just saying, they have sent OSIRIS-REx out towards Bennu and Lucy towards... what's the asteroid that they, I think it's Psyche, but I could be wrong. But the pebbles were observed by NASA's Spectral Interpretation, Resource Identification, Security, Regolith Explorer, or OSIRIS-REx mission. Scientists investigating the pebble phenomenon considered the Aguas Zarcas meteorite, a lump of space rock that landed in Costa Rica in 2019. The pair decided to find out why it held together so well using CT scans, and they discovered the pebbles within the rocks were spherical and aligned, as if some process had deformed them all in the same way as its previous life as a part of an asteroid. So could this be the process that I'm talking about here, right? The process of going from a plasmatic manifestation into mineral, into metal before it hits back to ground, right? If we think about the flow of energy in cosmic cycles, I think it makes a lot of sense. And if we think about the South Atlantic anomaly pushing on the magnetic field, creating the flux within the field, and we see the recent solar activity and coronal mass ejections, I think it's safe to say that we have some external influence happening as well. So we probably get a mix between both, right? Asteroids coming off of, objects outside, external to the influence of the Earth, and meteorites being, part of a plasmatic manifestation of something within, internal, inside the magnetosphere. It says the Dolphins concluded that a high-speed collision had deformed the rock, which broke apart thanks to the surface temperature differences that can swing through hundreds of degrees as an asteroid rotates. The resulting pebbles were then projected away from the surface either by another impact or thermal stress into an orbit around an asteroid. The energies produced by the asteroids are sufficient to allow pebbles to leave the surface, but their orbits degrade and the rocks fall back to coat the surface as if they weren't enough. Another impact transformed the pebbles that comprise aguas zarcas into solid, cohesive rock. It provides a new way of explaining the way that minerals on the surface of asteroids get mixed. And see, they're not saying the same thing, but they should be, because they're even acknowledging the whole mineral thing, okay? And just recently, too, watch a comet getting destroyed by the sun. A sun-grazing comet met its doom as the heat from the sun evaporated it completely. And see, we're having, and remember, dude, when we look at the Bible biblically, a third of the sun is struck, a third of the moon is struck, so there is some action that takes place up in the heavens as far as celestial phenomena and impacts. Right? We know that the star named Wormwood, lands in the water. We know a third of the earth is burned up, a third of the green grass is burned up. Is this all just metaphorical, allegorical? Possibly. But we know that usually whatever is metaphorical and allegorical also plays out on the physical plane as well. It says, goodbye, little comet. We barely knew you. The solar and heat collaboration between the European Space Agency and NASA observed a comet over the weekend, getting brighter as it approached closer and closer to the sun until the heat was too much and the comet was destroyed. Shared online by solar physicist Dr. Keith Strong, the comet was less a sun grazer and more of a sun diver. There are a lot of comets that pass close to the sun. SOHO alone has discovered over 4,900. However, to survive the heat of our star at perihelion, the closest point to the sun, you require bulk. A comet can survive it, but its mass would be massively reduced. The effects can also make the comet bright enough to be visible to the naked eye from Earth. And here you go. You'll actually be able to see it. It says the comet did not survive, as with most sun-diving comets. This one did come out the other side. The sun, after its nearest approach to the sun perihelion. Let's see if we can actually see this on the cam here. You can see the plasma ejection right there, right? You can see it's triggered by external influences to the sun. The sun's behind the occulter right here, right? And you're seeing it in stereo. I'm going to roll it back one more time because you can see the impact. It just kind of gets, it burns up before it ever hits. And who's to even say how much of that is legit, how much is not legit? A lot of people have many different opinions when it comes to comets and asteroids, and especially what we see by NASA. Bright green fireballs spotted over New Zealand. Here's what's probably happening. What's the chemistry behind these green sightings? And remember, the colors that we see within a comet, they always want to tell you that they're icy space bodies. No, that's actually gas that's burning off of those. And that's also what creates auroras on the ionosphere. That's why they're red, green, pink, purple, because yellow, different gases that are actually burning up. In the ionosphere, same thing with a comet. As it burns up, the color of the gas is how you know what is actually inside of the space rock, I guess, right? Bright green fireballs that streaked across the skies over New Zealand last month may finally have an explanation. On July 7th, 2022, a bright green meteor was spotted crashing into Cook Strait between New Zealand's North Island and South Island. The meteor, likely about 3.3 feet or 1 meter in diameter, struck with explosive power equivalent to 2,000 tons or 1,800 metric tons of TNT and led to a massive sonic boom. 2 weeks later, another rare green fireball was photographed over Canterbury on New Zealand's South Island. Fireballs are usually bright meteors that can exceed in size. Only around 4 are reported each year over any one region. So why are so many fireballs lighting up the skies over this island nation? We've seen tremendous increase in the number of reports from New Zealand, said Robert Lunsford, a fireball report coordinator at the American Meteor Society, who told Live Science that fireball reports from New Zealand have now surpassed those from Australia, which is nearly 30 times larger. These fireballs' intense green colors makes it more likely that people will report the sightings, he added. And remember, too, that when we talk about usually the green, the cyan green, it's because they're made up of cyanide. And I've speculated that, perhaps, and, we're going to see, too. We got Perseids. We got all types of space action going on. So, that's what's going to create this meteor shower, is us going through the tail of Swift Tuttle. And this has been something that passed, I believe, the last time in 1992. We're going to take a look at that tonight, too, as we go through all of this. But, I mean, we could be seeing effects from all of this. And I do believe that comets and the passing of these comets directly affect human consciousness. They directly affect the magnetic field. And when human consciousness is affected, we're going to talk about some stuff. I actually picked up some cool facts off of Jacob Israel on a new virus that's coming out. And the definition of the word, which we'll talk about in a minute. I wonder if we're going to start to see more of a distortion in human consciousness of those that are kind of vibrating towards a negative polarity. Now, it's also recently become easier than ever to report a fireball. The general public in New Zealand is now becoming aware that they can actually report these events through Fireball Aurora, said Lunsford. Fireballs Aurora is a collaboration between astronomers and citizen scientists aimed at finding meteorites that have just fallen to Earth. The nonprofit has now joined the International Meteor Organization, which collects meteor observations from all around the world and makes it easy for members to the public to report a sighting online. So, what gives these meteors their unforgettable green hue? Whether meteor wakes, which can last a few seconds, are green, or depends on the size of the height and chemistry of the meteors. The source of green is long-lasting meteor wake. The meteor is restricted to those above 62 miles, said Jack Bagley, a professor of emeritus in physics and astronomy at the University of Canterbury in New Zealand, who recently wrote an article on the topic. A much smaller meteor moving as fast as 45 miles per second strike Earth's atmosphere. Solar particles ionize oxygen in the upper atmosphere, and the same process creates green auroras. Green can also appear in slow meteors if they contain meteors, Bagley told Live Science. Fireballs, as was the case observed here, occur lower down, less than 37 miles up, and the green color in them is produced by large bodies composed of metallic materials such as nickel, iron, and magnesium. Well, that's kind of like a good fact to know. And I'm not saying that that's even true, what he's saying. I have my own hypothesis on these things, but I do believe there's probably some truth to that. So if we see green on the tail, we know it's like an oh shit moment. If we see fire on the tail, then we know we'll probably be cool. I guess is the name of the game. It says fireballs, as were the case here, occur lower, less than 37 miles up, and the green in them is produced by larger bodies. So if it's green, it's from a bigger body. While these fireballs possibly relate to the Perseid meteor shower, which occurs annually from mid-July to late August, the Perseid's swift velocity can cause ionized gas out of greenish hue as meteors pass through the atmosphere, according to Lunsford. But he doesn't think that the New Zealand fireballs are connected to the Perseids. This year, the Perseids last from July 17th until August 24th and peak from August the 12th to the 13th, so that timeline doesn't fit well with the early July sightings. Think about that. We have the Perseids peaking 12th and the 13th, and then we have the 5 asteroids in 5 days from the 12th to the 16th. Is that just coincidence, or, is something going on up there? Not to mention, we're seeing the sun divers and all of that taking place. So there's a lot of action in the heavens right now. Perseid meteors are generally not visible from New Zealand due to the southern location of the islands. Lunsford said, though there is a chance of the night of maximum activity, see a couple of these meteors shoot upwards from below the northern horizon from the northernmost position of North Island. Unfortunately, this year's Perseid's peak is less likely to be impressive than in past years. That's because the peak coincides with the August full moon, which will bleach the night sky and make meteors hard to see. So, matter of fact, moving forward, and we're going to look at some of these as well. The potentially hazardous blue whale-sized asteroid zipped through the Earth's orbit on Friday, so that's today. The asteroid set to fly past Earth safely, 27 times the speed of sound. PHA, the size of a blue whale, set to zip past on Friday the 12th. 2015 FF, the estimated diameter between 42 and 92 feet, or the body of the length of adult blue whale. Where the fuck do they come up with these comparisons? Like, it's the size of an adult blue whale. It's like, okay. Why a blue whale, though? At its closest approach, the asteroid, traveling around 27 times the speed of sound, will come within 2.67 million miles, or 4.3 million, and there's that 4.3 million, that golden number, of Earth, a little more than 8 times the average distance between Earth and the Moon by cosmic standards. This is a tiny margin. And let's go ahead and jump over here. I want to show you, too. And see, they're already getting you ready for the solar storms and all this, so the geomagnetic storms. We're going to look at 109P Swift-Tuttle, and this is what actually generates the Perseids. Comet Swift-Tuttle was discovered in 1862 independently by both Lewis Swift and Horace Tuttle. An overview: Comet 109P Swift-Tuttle takes 133 years to orbit the Sun. Once Swift-Tuttle's last reached perihelion, closest approach to the Sun, in 1992, and will return again in 2125. Swift-Tuttle is a large comet. Its nucleus is 16 miles across. That is more than twice the size of the object hypothesized to have led the demise of the dinosaurs. I'm glad they want to put that in there. The pieces of space debris that interact with our atmosphere to create the popular Perseids meteor shower originate from Swift-Tuttle. The annual meteor shower takes place each August and peaks mid-month. It was Giovanni Schiaparelli who realized in 1865 that this comet was a source of the Perseids. When comets come around the Sun, the dust they emit gradually spreads into a dusty trail around their orbits. Each year, the Earth passes through these debris tails, which allows the bits to collide with our atmosphere, where they disintegrate to create fiery and colorful streaks in the sky. And we don't care how it's got its name, but there you have it, though, Swift-Tuttle. And that's actually what creates the Perseids, which is what we're going through right now. So, as usual, though, anytime we have things taking place in the heavens, we also get military action and military drills as well. All right, so, I am a firm believer that WW3, because of prophecies by Nostradamus, because of the Bible talking about ships being destroyed and all of that, that we will be at some type of global conflict when the meteors begin to fall. Right, from the sky. So this is that's why hypersonic missiles behave like meteors. I've went over this a billion times over the channel. That this is what I believe. This is my theory on why the entire world's militaries right now are drilling like madmen and getting ready for an escalating global conflict. China's Taiwan military drills offer spying opportunity for the U.S. China's expanded drills surrounding Taiwan have marked an unprecedented military and political warning against outside interference over the island. They opened up a window to gather intelligence for the United States and its allies. The 4 days of intense drills last week and extended maneuvers this week provide an opportunity to scrutinize the missiles China would use to drive all foreign militaries intervening in any future invasion, as well as its command, control, and communication systems, regional diplomats, and security analysis say. And in the strategic intelligence front, the exercises have given a clue to China's ability to blockade the island as a prelude or an alternative to any invasion, showcasing the firing of ballistic missiles over Taiwan for the first time, as well as simulated air and sea attacks on ships on its east coast. While acknowledging ongoing data gathering, 2 U.S. military officials have cautioned that the drills are unlikely to offer the type of in-depth intelligence opportunity provided by other maneuvers beyond the headlines. China is unlikely to display its best tactics and strategics during the drills that it knows are being watched closely, said one of the officials, speaking on condition of anonymity. The official said that most of the systems and missiles used by China appear to be known to the United States and allies, so it was unclear how much more could be gleaned on their capabilities over the past few weeks. Singapore-based security analyst Colin Koh said rather than weaponry, the drills offered prime chance to monitor key Chinese elements. China's Reformed Eastern Theater Command, its rocket force, and strategic support force operating together in a fully coordinated and integrated way. And you know what? Uh, I felt like China and Taiwan would be a major impact or a point of conflict, to involve the United States and China into the World War III conflict. And we also know North Korea is another pinch point, Iran's another pinch point, the Black Sea, Crimea is another pinch point. Right? There's a few of these places around the world that just so happen to be like seismic hot zones. They would be zones of mass devastation, mass depopulation from cataclysms as well. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. That's all part of the reason why I believe, not really, I mean, I see U.S. politics and I see it's all theater and BS and nonsense. And then after 2019 and COVID and all of that, if you didn't come away with the feeling that it was all coordinated globally too, then I don't know what to tell you at this point. It says, I fully expect the U.S. to be collecting from a full spectrum signals, communications, and electronic intelligence. It's just a too good opportunity to miss. When you collect this kind of data from the other side, it means you can figure out where their vulnerabilities are, and it helps you create your own counter and jamming systems. Ships, submarines, and drones. The United States has kept at least 4 warships east of Taiwan, centered on the USS Reagan aircraft carrier during the exercises, and while those ships wield powerful strike threat, they also operate a vast surveillance capability above, across, and under vast swaths of ocean. Reuters confirmed the presence of the ships last week, and they remain around the Philippine Sea east of Taiwan, according to official Twitter feeds. Less visibly, U.S., Japanese, and Taiwanese submarines and advanced surveillance aircraft are likely to be involved in the intelligence operation as well. Analysts and retired intelligence officers say, for example, submarines can collect a warship's individual acoustic signature, vital data if a conflict is ever to break out. Online trackers of aircraft and ships have also reported the presence of specialist electromagnetic intelligence gathering assets in the area, including powerful U.S. RC-1355 Cobra Ball aircraft and a missile monitoring ship. Taiwan also launched its locally produced Albatross reconnaissance drones during the Chinese drills, according to video footage reviewed by Reuters. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command did not respond to Reuters' questions for the deployment of intelligence gathering assets. So you can see, like, they're juicing it up, man. They're getting ready. I do believe that we are going to be fed world war narrative, when it hits the fan. I've been a firm believer that for years the reason for the deep underground military bases and Cold Wars and all of these different nuclear scares was to create some type of reinforcement underground network for the governments and the elites of the world, right, to kind of go and hide basically when all the destruction does come, and it's not that it's just prophesied biblically, scripturally, and in basically every ancient text on the face of the earth and every prophet on the face of the earth. But there's a lot of evidence geologically, right, that this has happened over and over again here too, that there are catastrophic cycles that take place. And where they have for the lies that they're producing there, they continuously keep you in the dark and oblivious to the true threat of people that live on the coastlines, to the true threat of people that live in seismic fault zones. Like if you're not on the North American Craton in North America, you might want to find out where that is for you and how long it'll take you to get there. You might want to start thinking about highest elevations around you and things of that nature. I do believe that there's a divine plan in all of this, and that wherever you're meant to be, you will be, and that there's no sense in living in fear or anything like that. We should always conduct our lives as if there's going to be a tomorrow, and never be gripped by fear and negativity of any way, shape, form, or facet. But also, we should also have plans with our families. Like, what if the grid goes down? What if, just to be, in intelligent human beings that have a plan for things that, can happen anytime and not for any specific reason. The intensifying solar storms, a mounting headache for unprepared satellite operators. Experts say the increasing frequency of solar storms, the result of the sun's 11-year cycle, is catching small-sat firms off guard. And that's what I mean. We're seeing the intensity in geomagnetic storms and solar flares, and that knocks out communications, that knocks down airplanes, that does a whole lot to the magnetic field. And lots of energies are flowing in right now. So I'm just saying, and not to mention all the space debris as well. We're in the third year of the sun's 11-year solar cycle, and satellites in low Earth orbit are already experiencing the deleterious effects. Scientists are now warning that the worst is yet to come, as the current cycle is proving to be stronger than forecasters anticipated. A panel of space weather experts expressed these concerns at the recently concluded 26th Small Satellite Conference organized by the Secure World Foundation. Speaking on August 8th, as Zhu Weifeng, a space scientist of NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, offered a bleak outlook for next several years. Whatever you've experienced in the past 2 years doesn't matter, Fang said, as reported in Space News. Whatever you learned the past 2 years is not going to apply in the next 5 years. Indeed, low Earth orbit has been unusually tumultuous these days as the sun approaches its latest solar maximum, a period characterized by increased solar activity. Fang and her colleagues warned that small satellites are particularly vulnerable to the ensuing solar storms, and that the small sat operators aren't sufficiently responding or adapting to what is regularly occurring phenomena in the sun's life cycle. But while the 11-year solar cycle is predictable, the current cycle, which began in December 2019, is proving to be more eventful than anticipated. Periodic changes to the sun's magnetic field affect the frequency of sunspots, which in turn increases the frequency of solar flares. These flares send waves of high-energy electromagnetic radiation into the solar system, a portion of which reach Earth's atmosphere. We see this in the form of extra dramatic auroras, but also as disruptive space weather. The heat from these storms causes the upper atmosphere to expand, resulting in extra drag for satellites in low Earth orbit and accelerated orbital decay. We've already seen the effects of this. In February, SpaceX lost 49 Starlink satellites as a result of geomagnetic storm. The satellites had only recently been launched and were attempting to reach their operational orbits, but the speed and severity of a solar storm, the result of a flare that occurred just prior to the February 3rd launch, caused atmospheric drag to increase up to 50% higher than during previous launches, according to SpaceX. But as Fang grimly noted at the conference, that the storm was actually a minor storm in our catalog. SWPC and SpaceX are working together to study the incident, with a paper on the subject expected shortly, according to Space News. The rise in solar activity has afflicted LightSail 2, a project of the Planetary Society that launched to space in 2019. The satellite, with its 344 square foot, 32 square meter solar sail, is now expected to burn up in the atmosphere at some point this year as a result of extra solar activity. Another consequence of the extra drag is that it causes satellites and debris to change orbital positions, making the already complex job of tracking these objects and avoiding potential collisions even more difficult. What's more, increased solar activity can ruin satellite electronics and pose dangers for astronauts working outside of the International Space Station. The current solar cycle is expected to peak by the middle of the decade, when solar activity will be even more intense. The conference panelists are worried that the small sats containing off-the-shelf components will get fried by future solar storms, as these units weren't built to withstand this level of peril. And you have to understand, too, holy moly, the moon is insane. We got a new moon tonight. I haven't seen it, so if you got pictures or whatever, post them in the Facebook groups or something. I'd love to see it, or on Discord. So we got to understand too that what they're not adding is that the magnetic field is in flux and it's incredibly weakened, and that the polarity is reversing also. So, that's also creating a major level of intensity to the satellites and all of that as well. So, it's got a lot to do with the magnetic field, and it's not just from solar activity. There's got to be something external that's taking place as well, because it's affecting the sun in such a dramatic way. Satellite imagery shows Antarctic ice shelf crumbling faster than thought. faster than thought. And see, look, remember I told you guys in the Lost Book of Inky that when the Doomsday Glacier popped, when the Arctic ice popped, that's when they hopped in their spaceships and they left because they knew shit was about to hit the fan. Los Angeles Reuters, Antarctica's coastal glaciers are shedding icebergs more rapidly than nature can replenish the crumbling ice, doubling previous estimates of losses from the world's largest ice sheet over the past 25 years, a satellite analysis showed on Wednesday. The first of its kind study, led by researchers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory near LA and published in the journal Nature, raises new concern about how fast climate change is weakening Antarctica's floating ice shelves and accelerating the rise of global sea levels. The study's key finding was that the net loss of Antarctic ice from coastal glacier chunks calving off into the ocean is nearly as great as the net amount of ice that scientists already knew was being lost due to the thinning caused by the melting of the ice shelves from below by warming seas. Taken together, thinning and calving have reduced the mass of Antarctica's ice shelves by 12 trillion tons since 1997, double the previous estimate, the analysis concluded. That's fucking crazy. 12 trillion tons since 97. That's double what they thought. The net loss of the continent's ice sheet from calving alone in the past quarter century spans 37,000 square kilometers or 14,300 square miles in an area almost the size of Switzerland, according to JPL scientist Chad Green, the study's lead author. Antarctica is crumbling at its edges, Green said in a NASA announcement of the findings, and when ice shelves dwindle and weaken, the continent's massive glaciers tend to speed up and increase the rate of global sea level rise. And when those doomsday glaciers pop, dude, they send large tsunamis globally. So that's more of what I'm more concerned about, because massive chunks of ice break off, from all of that warm water. And there's just been this major flux of warm water that's actually, went into Antarctica just recently. The consequences could be enormous. Antarctica holds 88% of the sea level potential of all the world's ice. So think about those type of tsunamis. If it holds 88% of the sea level potential. Okay? Ice shelves, permanent floating sheets of frozen fresh water attached to land, take thousands of years to form and act like buttresses, holding back glaciers that would otherwise easily slide off into the ocean, causing seas to rise. And that's why I said, if you're kicking it 100, 200 miles within the coast and something like that happened, damn, son. Or an asteroid impact off of the Atlantic or Pacific, damn, son, that'd be rough, and that's why I don't understand why they don't tell people, about these dangers. It's like we don't see it already in hurricanes and cyclones and shit. People get smashed on the Atlantic every time. It's like, what do you think would happen in an asteroid impact in the Atlantic? What do you think would happen if, a large chunk of ice, blew off? Like, it would be devastating. Absolutely devastating. Bright fireballs over Madrid trace back to comet of origin. A particularly bright meteor seen in the skies of Earth on July 31st has been traced back to a comet that created a field of debris when it began to disintegrate thousands of years ago. Scientists believe that the fragment that ended its life as a fireball over Madrid, Spain, began its existence as part of comet 169P NEAT, which formed at the same time as the solar system, around 4.6 billion years ago. The comet, an icy body that sheds debris as it travels, is responsible for the Alpha Capricornids annual meteor shower, which first occurred between 3,500 and 5,000 years ago, when around half of comet 169P NEAT disintegrated. Although the small fragment and the light show created when it destroyed in Earth's atmosphere presented no danger, the European Space Agency pointed out in a statement that the meteor is a cautionary tale, that this is because of showers of tiny fragments are left by larger bodies that once passed by close to our planet and could do so again. We should maybe take a look at that statement. Let's see. Yeah. Such showers are periodic reminders that Earth is sweeping through an environment sprinkled with ancient remnants of the early solar. While safe, These impressive light shows offer a cautionary tale as these many small fragments belie the larger objects that came from that once passed the Earth's orbit and could do it again. So they're telling you, dude, like, you know, these meteors are an indicator that they're coming from something way bigger and that it could actually happen again. How about that? You know, just saying. How about that? Nuclear war no longer seems to scare us as much as it used to. Have we become accustomed to the unthinkable? The UN Secretary General last week said humanity remains one miscalculation away from annihilation. We should be frightened and angry. Well, of course we should be. Without fear, they can't keep you under control, right? So, I mean, but you see it though. Nuclear war. We are literally no longer as scared as we used to be. And, you know, they pray. It's because they normalize these things. They put it in the news, and YouTubers, you know, bash you over the head with World War III videos all the time. And I've been guilty of it myself because they raise the scare of the shit every other week. That way, when the time does come, you don't react. You're unprepared. You're not ready for it. The sixth mass extinction hasn't begun yet, study claims, but Earth is barreling towards it. A mass extinction event is already underway. The present extinction rate of life on Earth doesn't qualify as a mass extinction even yet, but current trends show that it eventually will. A new study finds the number of species that are currently hurtling towards extinction has led many ecologists to argue that we are undergoing a sixth mass extinction, but we are only witnessing the beginning, and it will likely get much worse. According to a new study, however, the percentage of extinctions caused by global temperature increases from climate change will not reach the same level as a major mass extinction event, at least not until the near future. There have been 5 major mass extinctions throughout the Earth's, let's see if we can open that up, the 4.5 billion year history. And those cataclysms in the distant past is to understand how climate change is now affecting global diversity in ways that may be irreversible. During a mass extinction, a high percentage of global biodiversity is extinguished faster than it can be replaced. And this happens over a relatively short period of time by geologic standards, less than 2.8 million years. According to the Natural History Museum in London, species may go extinct for a number of reasons. So to understand what a normal extinction rate looks like, ecologists measure what is known as the background rate of extinction, and said the study sole author Kunio Kaiho, professor emeritus at the Department of Earth Science at Tohoku University in Japan. According to Kaiho, 5 to 10% species extinctions in 1 million years corresponds to the background rate. A higher rate, such as more than 10% species extinction in a short time, example given hundreds of years, is a significant event. However, estimating the background rate of extinction for past epochs can be really tricky because the fossil records tend to overrepresent larger, more abundant species, said David Stork, a professor in the Department of Ecology at Charles University in Prague, who was not involved in the new study. That being said, the current rate of extinction is about 2 orders of magnitude higher than the normal rate of extinction. Major mass extinctions result in more than 60% species lost. However, minor mass extinction events occur more frequently, and the new study published July 22nd in the journal Biogeosciences, and they argue that the changes in climate cause higher extinction rates, but that the present rate cannot be yet considered a mass extinction event in the strict definition. The previous 5 major mass extinction events were the Ordovician Silurian extinction about 440 million years ago, the late Devonian extinction about 365 million years ago, the Permian Triassic extinction about 253 million years ago, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction about 201 million years ago, and the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction about 66 million years ago. And these events have also been associated with drastic changes in Earth's climate, such as changes in surface temperature, warming and cooling, acid rain, ozone depletion, reduced sunlight, desertification, soil erosion, and reduction of oxygen in the ocean, Kaiho reported. But according to Storch, the changes in atmospheric and oceanic chemistry played bigger roles in these extinctions than global warming or cooling did. These changes are linked as global warming can increase the ocean's acidity as well as the atmosphere's composition, but volcanic activity also played large roles. The climate change detected during these last mass extinctions may not be the sole cause of the extinctions, but the rate of the extinction may be the consequence of other global changes which happened at the time. Because prior mass extinctions were triggered by volcanic eruptions in the cases of the Cretaceous, an event in asteroid impact, the resultant changes in the climate were rapid and drastic. In the study, Kaiho argues that the speed of environmental change is more important than the magnitude of change alone in causing massive extinction rates because during slow climate changes, animals can migrate to survive. In order to meet the definition of a major mass extinction event, scientists would need to observe the extinction of 60% of species and 35% of genera, the plural of genus. However, just because this magnitude of extinctions has not been observed yet does not mean it is not currently underway. The sixth extinction differs from its predecessors because it's driven by human-made climate change, Kaiho's paper argues. That's because of the pace of such climate change is gradual rather than abrupt and drastic. We are unlikely to see extinction rates in the near future that meet the definition of major mass extinction event, but they may well qualify for a minor mass extinction. An increase in average global temperature of 9 degrees Celsius or 16.2 degrees Fahrenheit is essential for major mass extinctions coinciding with global warming. Says such an increase would not happen at least till 2500 under the worst scenario. Because the rate of species extinction changes in parallel with global surface temperatures, we will not see an abrupt massive loss of species, but rather a slow and steady rate of species extinction in the near future, which will not culminate in the loss of 60% of Earth's species, he wrote in the study. These findings come with an important caveat for many ecologists. The present rate of extinction is only an estimate and may be an inaccurate one. Yeah, probably is. According to January 2022, the study published in the Journal of Biological Reviews, the number of species extinctions recorded is highly biased towards mammals and birds and overlooks many invertebrates, therefore significantly species extinction. For now, according to David Storch, other human-driven actions such as habitat transformation through deforestation and pollution, as well as overhunting and the introduction of non-native species play a much bigger role in driving the present rate of species extinction than rising average global temperatures. Yeah, and that's what they're going to do is blame all of it, man-made, but I'm just saying. And you see here, Earth may be in the early days of the sixth mass extinction. And this is just on the sixth mass extinction. I wanted to open this up. We weren't getting to that. We'll jump over here, though. Relationship between extinction magnitude and climate change during the marine and terrestrial animal crisis. And this is the abstract. We'll just read the little general. Major mass extinctions and the Phanerozoic era occurred during abrupt global climate changes accompanied by environmental destruction driven by large volcanic eruptions and projectile impacts. So something from space slapped the Earth and caused this to happen. And like I said, there's a lot of shit flying around in space right now and triggering the sun and solar activity triggering the magnetic field and creating the flux within the magnetic field as well. So, something tells me, just because biblically, prophetically, we're basically told that that's what happens, that we will probably experience something very similar in our time. My analysis shows that the magnitude of major extinctions in marine invertebrates and the terrestrial tetrapods correlate well within the coincidental anomaly of global and habitat surface temperatures during biotic crisis, respectively, regardless of the difference between warming and cooling correlation coefficient. The loss of more than 35% of marine genera and 60% of marine species corresponding to the so-called Big Five major mass extinctions correlates with a negative 7 degrees Celsius global cooling and 7 to 9 degrees Celsius global warming for marine animals and 7 degrees Celsius global cooling, 7 degrees Celsius global warming for terrestrial tetrapods. So, and they're even telling you that there's a major error in that, right? Like they're not even accounting for all of the shit, just saying. So, tracking 30 years of sea rise. 30 years ago, scientists and engineers launched a new satellite study the rising and falling of seas over time, a task that once could only be done from coast. Topek's Poseidon rocket into space on August 10th, 92, which was when Swift Tuttle passed the last time, just saying. A started 30-year record of ocean surface height around the world. The observations have confirmed on a global scale what scientists previously saw from the shoreline. The seas are rising and the pace is quickening. Scientists have found that global mean sea level rise, shown in the line plot above and below, has risen 10.1 centimeters or 4 inches since 92 over the past 140 years. Satellite and tide gauges together show the global sea level rise has risen from 21 to 24 centimeters, or from 8 to 9 inches, which, that's a lot. So, just saying. Starting with Topek's Poseidon, NASA and partner space agencies have flown a continuous series of satellites that use radar altimeters to monitor ocean surface topography, essentially the vertical shape and height of the ocean. Radar altimeters continually send out pulses of radio waves or microwaves that reflect off the ocean surface back toward the satellite. The instruments calculate the time it takes for the signal to return, while also tracking the precise location of the satellite in space. From this, scientists derived the height of the sea surface directly underneath the satellite. Since 92, 5 missions with similar altimeters have been repeated the same orbit every 10 days. Topek's Poseidon, 92 to 2006, Jason 1, 2001 to 2013, Ocean Surface Topography Mission Jason 2, 08 to 2019, and 3, 2016 to present, and the Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich, 2020 to present. The missions were built through various partnerships between NASA, France's Centre National des Études Spatiales, and the European Organization of Exploitation of Meteorological Satellites, and the European Space Agency, and the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. Together, the mission teams have assembled a unified, standardized ocean topography recorder that is equivalent to the work of 500,000 tidal gauges. The scientists accumulated and corroborated a data record that is now long enough and sensitive to detect global and regional sea level changes beyond the seasonal, yearly, and decadal cycles that naturally occur. Within 30 years of data, we can finally see what a huge impact we have on the Earth's climate, and that's what they got out of that. The rise of sea level caused by human interference with the climate now dwarfs the natural cycles and is happening faster and faster every decade. So the moral of the story is you're a piece of shit, is what I gather from that one. That's what I'm picking up off of it. I don't know what you got out of all that, but I'm picking up that you're a piece of shit. That's what they're trying to say. Why the U.S. power grid has become unreliable. Blackouts are growing more frequent in the U.S. and seeing this as a result of the magnetic field, solar activity, all of this. $12.86 billion on grid modernization, investment under consideration. Regulators only approved $478.7 million during the quarter, according to the NC Clean Energy Technology Center. Blackouts are growing more frequent in the U.S. The average American experienced just over 8 hours of power outages in 2020, with overall duration of power interruptions in the U.S. more than doubling since 2015, according to the U.S. Department of Energy. This is not because the grid has changed, but because there is so much greater threat from extreme weather. And the number of extreme weather events of every kind has increased significantly over the last decade in particular. There are a total of 549 policy and deployment actions on grid modernization during the second quarter of 2022, but of the $12.86 billion investment under consideration, regulators only approved $478.7 million, according to NC Clean Energy Technology. Electricity systems are an area of shared federal and state jurisdictions. The fact that we have to split authority between the federal government and the states is one factor that contributes to the complexity and the sort of modernizing the grid and building additional infrastructure. The state entities regulate electric utilities called state public utility commissions. In some states, those commissions are elected. So if we're talking about making investments that are going to be really expensive and are going to be increasing electricity bills, they may see a lot of pushback from customers about that might affect the commissioner's chances of re-election. Yeah, so they politicized electricity is what they're saying. So that's why it's fucked up. We're not opposed to solar, but it does not belong on farmland. It does not belong in agriculturally zoned area, and it certainly does not belong on timberland. So yeah, it doesn't belong on anywhere that, we say it doesn't belong, basically. But seeing more, DC Mayor Browser renews Pentagon request for National Guard support to help with migrants. DC Muriel Browser renewed her request on Thursday for the DC National Guard to lend support to migrants arriving in the city after the Pentagon denied the request last week. I've been honored to work with the men and women of the DC National Guard many times, and today was renewed a request for their assistance. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin turned down Bowser's initial request last week after determining that providing the support would negatively impact the readiness of the DCNG and have a negative effect on the organization and its members. The was prompted because of migrants arriving in D.C., Texas, and Arizona, a program begun by the Republican governors Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey in protest of President Biden's border policies. In the renewal, Bowser clarified her previously open-ended request for assistance would begin August 22nd and be reevaluated in the beginning of December. So they're bringing National Guard to D.C. for migrants. Any type of National Guard movements is always something that I keep on my radar, just because I feel like it's a good telltale sign of them anticipating certain things. They'll put the National Guard into place, so that's why I cover those things. Asteroid Ceres was radioactive, and that could explain a lot. Remember, wormwood is radioactive, right? Radioactive heat in the asteroid's early days may have destabilized the small world, creating an asymmetric surface. A team of U.S. planetary scientists has shown the unexpected surface features on the dwarf planet Ceres can be explained by radioactive decay in its interior long ago. If they are right, their model could explain the features not just on other dwarf planets, but also on some of the icy moons in the outer solar system. And if we're thinking about dwarf stars, binary companions, and the radioactivity, my mind automatically goes to wormwood. That's where it goes to. That's the whole reason they even brought that up. DARPA selects companies for Inter-Satellite Laser Communications Project. The good old folks at DARPA. DARPA is pursuing a new laser terminal design that would be compatible with any constellation. 5 commercial satellite operators, SpaceX, Telesat, SpaceLink, Viasat, and Amazon's Kuiper, are among 11 organizations selected by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency to help develop laser terminals and technical standards to connect satellites in space. Under a project called Space-Based Adaptive Communications Node, or Space BACN, DARPA is pursuing a new laser terminal design that would be compatible with any constellation and make it easier for government and commercial satellites to talk to each other. And think about, what those satellites are really talking to. Over 90% of the population in all the countries. DARPA announced August 10th to select 11 teams for Phase 1 of Space BACN. The goal is to create the Internet of Low Earth Orbit satellites, enabling seamless communication between military, government, and commercial and civil satellite constellations that currently are unable to talk with each other. So, I really wonder, because DARPA and the DoD have rolled out the entire agenda that's taken place since 2019, and I have no fucking doubt in my mind that this strategic shit they're doing here is most definitely connected. That's why they're trying to connect, civil and all of that, with the military shit, right? And they're saying, they can all communicate with each other. That whole hive mind fucking, mainframe type shit. The 5 satellite operators would help define command and control requirements to support optical inter-satellite link communications across constellations. Phase 1 of Space BACN will be about 14 months and will conclude with a preliminary design, review, and connectivity demonstration in a simulated environment. DARPA said at the completion of Phase 1, some of the providers will be selected to participate in an 18-month Phase 2 to develop engineering design units of the optical terminal components. The satellite operators during Phase 2 will continue to evolve concepts for cross-constellation communications. And if we're all stars, in essence, I wonder what the cross constellation communication is really all about. You know what I mean? If we're all technically stars, right? So what constellations are they actually communicating with? You and me? Or just all the people with a chip in their head? U.S. goes to the hypersonic way to develop next-gen artillery, tests air-breathing shells for its howitzers. After China-Russian warplane storms into air defense identification zone, U.S. responds firm and quick. The experiment was carried out on June 28th at the Andia Test Center in Norway and involved firing a Boeing Ramjet 155, a projectile from a cannon. The test successfully demonstrated that a ramjet projectile could maintain stability in flight and that ramjet engines could ignite and produce enough power to move it. Projectile is an essential element of the 55 program, which is part of the service's Extended Range Artillery Munition Suite Technology Initiative. The program looks like a cutting-edge technology to increase the range and potency of artillery rounds. So they're getting the long-range hypersonic artillery shit ready, basically. You know, just I'm telling you, man, the writing's on the wall for a lot of this stuff, dude. Like it's at the point to where, like, if you don't see it now, I don't know if you ever will see it. World's largest ice sheet crumbling faster than previously thought. Satellite imagery shows. Antarctica's glacial glaciers are shedding icebergs more rapidly than nature's crumbling ice. We've already talked about this, so we're just going to move past that. The crumbling ice. Did giant impacts start? Plate tectonics. And this is something I've brought up, in the past. It talks about a mountain being thrown in the sea, causing land masses to rise and fall. Both Nostradamus and the Bible mention these things. I wonder if it is asteroid impacts that trigger the pole shift or magnetic reversal. Plate tectonics may have its origin in impacts based on new data from Australia. One of Earth's defining features is its plate tectonics, a phenomenon that shapes the planet's surface and creates some of its most catastrophic events, like earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. While some features of plate tectonics have been spotted elsewhere in the solar system, the Earth is the only planet we know with the full suite of processes involved in the phenomena, and all indications are that it started very early in our planet's history. Shortly after the Earth formed, its crust would have been composed of a relatively solid rock that acted as a lid over a still molten mantle below. Above that, there was likely a global ocean, since plate tectonics wasn't building mountains yet. Somehow, the situation with the large regions of moving, buoyant crust of the continental plates and the constantly spreading deep ocean crust that form mantle materials are driven by the heart-induced motion of material through the mantle. And I believe if we look at the expansion of the tropical zone and the bulge around the equator, and we look at Pangea and the expansion of continents, and we understand the flow of electromagnetic energy through the poles of the planet, the North and South Pole are essentially electrical conductors for energy, and that's why the magnetic field flows in that energetic pattern. That actually, what causes the expansion of the continents has nothing to do with any of what they're talking about at all. It's actually from the magnetic flux that's created by solar activity and then is triggered by cosmic rays and radiation, causing expansion within inside the planet, because it's all plasmatic manifestation in the cycle of energy that we see and we talk about all the time, right? From crustal displacement to those gases escaping out into the creating the auroras, back down, chaotic weather. And you've seen from Pangea to the expansion of the continents outward and that bulge around the equator, the planet's essentially getting fatter because it's taking on more cosmic dust and bullshit from space. So, I mean, that's my theory, but what do I know? The primary explanation for the origin of plate tectonics is simply to assume that mantle circulation was also what triggered the phenomenon's onset. Eruptions over mantle hotspots would bring less dense material to the surface, with the added weight forcing more dense material down into the mantle. And see, they're saying essentially that, mantle circulation, but they're not telling you what's circulating. It's energetic circulation or plasmatic circulation is what I believe. Right? That's what causes crustal displacement. So who knows? I'm just saying. Like, that's my opinion on it. I feel like science is just bunk these days. It's like, you know. Astronomers plan to fish an interstellar meteorite out of the ocean using a massive magnet. Astronomers are planning a fishing trip to land an extraterrestrial interloper on Earth, a small meteorite from another star system that crashed into the Pacific Ocean with energy equivalent to about 121 tons or 110 metric tons of TNT. The team from Harvard University hopes to find fragments of this interstellar rock known as 2014-0108, which slammed into Earth on January 8, 2014. Finding such a fragment would represent the first contact humanity has ever had with material larger than dust from beyond the solar system. Yeah. What are we going to learn from that? They identified the interstellar object's origin in 2019 in a study with 99.999% confidence, but it wasn't until May 2022 that it was confirmed by Siraj, the U.S. Space Command. There are no known witnesses to the object striking Earth. It struck the atmosphere at about 100 miles off the coast of Papua New Guinea in the middle of the night with about 1% of the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. So nobody even seen the fucking thing strike, and they're like, but we know to 99.99% certainty that this absolutely was a meteorite from an interstellar, traveler here. It's like, come on, man. They take your money every fucking chance they get anymore. Honestly. Yeah, I see your comment, LC. I agree with that. Keep on taking them. Yeah, well, people's going to do what they do, and that's on them, I guess. But, as far as, the way I see things, like, we're at a critical point right now. I mean, honestly, we are at a critical point, and this shit is a distraction. Right here. Trump under criminal investigation for potential violation of Espionage Act as it happened. When you're seeing them rolling out Trump in the headlines, you might want to start paying attention. Trump under investigation for potential Espionage Act. The FBI cited potential violations of the Espionage Act and 2 other federal statutes when it searched Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, according to the warrant released today. They also turned up classified and top secret documents. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives was still debating the Biden administration's marquee plan to fight climate change and lower health care costs, dubbed the Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah, so they're throwing in the great plans of Biden there. A little good publicity for him. No, please. Continue throwing a hissy fit while your material conditions degrade. The top 1% has stolen $50 trillion from the bottom 90% over the past few decades. 700 billionaires own as much wealth as 65 million households. The minimum wage hasn't been raised for 13 years, and they couldn't be happier to hear you whining about CRT and wokeness. Yeah. Inflation has pushed people to the limits. The people of Sierra Leone have risen in sudden violent rebellion, several dead during latest protests. Do you think we will have the winter of protests in Europe? Another Salman Rushdie attacked on stage in New York. Shocked he's still alive. Amazing he's been hiding for over 30 years with $3 trillion bounty on his head. Yeah, crazy. Armed subject tried to breach FBI headquarters and identified the Ohio shooting suspect as Ricky Schiffer. I didn't hear nothing about this, and I live in Cincinnati. The NYT has identified the Ohio shooting suspect as Ricky Schifter. And the Truth Social account using the same name on the same day. They executed a warrant in Mar-a-Lago. The account was called to be ready for combat and to kill FBI on site. You got to be fucking kidding me. And people buy into this shit. Anyways. Horrifying century-old hunger stones emerge from dry riverbeds in drought-stricken Europe. Hunger stones? Water levels have dropped in major rivers across Europe as the region suffers under a historic drought. In those dry riverbeds, century-old warning messages have emerged, locals report. The horrifying boulders are known as Hungerstein or Hunger Stones, local German reporter Olaf Cohen said August 11th in a tweet. And I cannot read German. One of these stones is embedded in the Elbe River, which runs from the mountains of Czechia through Germany to the North Sea. The stone dating back to a drought in 1616 is once again visible in the dry riverbed, Hernandez Morales said. The warning reads, "When du mich siehst, dann wein. If you see me, weep." Whoa. If you see me, weep. And I don't know why that all of a sudden means hunger stones. What if they're talking about, an object in the sky or something? You never know. Like, for real. Honestly. If you look at the year 1616, I do believe the 1600s, 1700s was around the time of a conjunction. So, hunger stones like this one were used as hydrological landmarks across Central Europe. NPR reported when the stones last surfaced during the 2018 drought. These stones are chiseled with the years of hardship and the initials of authors lost to history, a team of Czech researchers wrote in a 2013 study. The basic inscriptions warned of the consequences of drought. It expressed that drought had brought a bad harvest, lack of food, high prices, and hunger for poor people. The recent drought in Europe once again made visible the hunger stones in some Czech and German rivers. These stones were used to mark desperately low river levels that would forecast famines. This one in the Elbe River from 1616 says, "If you see me, cry." Damn, son. The stones commemorate historic droughts. Europe's current drought is certainly historic. Scientists at the European Drought Observatory said that the drought is on track to be the worst one in 500 years. Yeah, and that's the thing. These conjunctions happen, everything is around 800 and 400 years ago. So, I wonder, how the timing correlates with those. Government cover-up. Poland's second longest river, the Oder, has just died from toxic pollution. Mercury levels beyond imagination. 10 tons of fish dead. They knew since 2 weeks, but did not alarm. That's crazy. Poland's second longest river, the Oder, has just died from toxic pollution. Fish will be eaten by birds. And I wonder if it's toxic pollution. Remember, like when we look into the Cobra and it talks about the destroyer, that's one of the first signs of its arrival is that all the fish in the sea start to die first. So I just want to put that out there, man. Fish will be eaten by birds, mammals, and maybe humans along the river. People living along the river use it for almost everything: drinking, daily care, washing, watering their crops, grazing their animals. This could be huge. More than 10 tons of fish have already been collected along the river, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. The Polish government are aware of this water poisoning since 2 weeks, as huge numbers of dead fish were spotted near the southwestern Polish town of Olawa in late July, along with dead animals such as beavers. But these mad officials remained silent and didn't alarm anybody. And you can see that's a lot of fish. Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak announced Thursday that soldiers and reservists were being deployed to help remove pollutants from the river, which is known as the Oder in German and the Odra in Polish and Czech. It flows north for hundreds of miles of the Oder Mountains in Czechia and empties into the Baltic Sea. Only today, in the midst of the media storm, the Marshall Lubuski region has filled to motion to declare a state of natural disaster along the country's second longest river. Under no circumstances are people allowed to go near the Oder River, she said. Wow. Think it's about fucking time. The Polish government is behaving like the Soviet Union after the Chernobyl nuclear power plant explosion. These guys should go to jail. Imagine such a view stretching for hundreds of kilometers and a toxic wave heading to the Baltic Sea. At least 10 tons of dead fish have been pulled out of the river Oder, which flows along part of Poland's border with Germany, as officials warn people not to enter the water due to possible contamination. Anglers and volunteers removed dead fish from the 200 kilometers, 124-mile stretch of the river north of Olawa in southwest Poland, the head of the agency which manages the country's national waters has said. Zimilal Daka, head of state water holding, also called the situation gigantic ecological catastrophe. Huge amounts of chemical waste were probably dumped in the Oder River with full awareness of the risks and consequences. He said in a video on Facebook, "We will not let this matter go. We will not rest until the guilty are severely punished." Probably would have to punish your fucking self. Just saying. Okay, the Perseid meteor shower. The Perseid meteorites are swiftly increasing as Earth approaches. The dense stream of debris from the parent comet Swift-Tuttle. If forecasters are correct, the shower will peak the 12th to 13th, almost perfectly coinciding with the full moon. Bright moonlit will overwhelm many faint meteors, but there should still be plenty of Perseid fireballs. Enjoy the show. A new type of space weather, the SME. You've heard of a CME, a coronal mass ejection. They happen all the time. A piece of the sun's tenuous outer atmosphere, corona, blows off and sometimes hits Earth. Something far more terrible has happened to Betelgeuse. The red giant star produced an SME, or a surface mass ejection. And that's actually the thumbnail for tonight's show. And you can see the image right there, right? Boom, boom, boom. Or the artist's rendition of it. Right? NASA's astronomers believe that the 2019 colossal piece of Betelgeuse surface blew off the star. The mass of the SME was 400 billion times greater than a CME, or several times the mass of Earth's moon. Data from multiple telescopes, especially Hubble, suggests that a convective plume more than 1 million miles across bubbled up from the deep inside the star, producing shocks and pulsations that blasted a chunk off the surface. Wow. Talk about like a micronova. We've never before seen such a huge mass ejection from the surface of a star, says Andrea Dupree of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center of Astrophysics, who is leading the study. Something is going on that we don't completely understand. After it left the star, the SME cooled, forming a dark cloud that famously dimmed Betelgeuse in 2019 and 2020. Even casual skywatchers could look up and see the change. Some astronomers worry that the dimming foreshadowed a supernova explosion. The realization that an SME is responsible has at least temporarily calmed those fears. And you can see Jupiter's orbit, the size of the star. Okay. Betelgeuse's brightness has since returned to normal, but something strange is still going on. Astronomers have long known that Betelgeuse is a variable star with a 430-day period. Its metronome-like change in brightness has been observed more than 200 years. As Betelgeuse recovers, however, those pulsations are no longer regular. Spectra taken by Hubble and the Tillinghast telescope in Arizona imply that years later the surface of Betelgeuse is still bouncing like a plate of gelatin dessert, a testament to the ferocity of the blowout. Wow. So it's still bouncing around. Betelgeuse is so large that if it replaced the sun at the center of our solar system, its atmosphere would extend past Jupiter. Dupree used Hubble to resolve the hot spots on the surface in 1996. This was the first direct image of a star other than the sun. What's happening now? A totally new phenomenon that we can observe directly and receive surface details with Hubble. We're watching stellar evolution in real time. Federer caught at least 51 of the satellites, some sparkling beautifully in high altitude. They passed close enough to star clusters to make a really nice view. Starlink, yeah, who gives a fuck? That's so crazy. We had 38 fireballs on August 12th. You can see their trajectory right here. We had 2,291 PHAs, 2022 PW1 with 0.6 lunar distances and 10 meters in diameter on August the 8th. Nothing big of concern. The 12th, we do have 2022 PX1. It's 125 meters in diameter. That's really big. 2.8 lunar distances. Wow. So that's today. Or tomorrow. And then 2022 PW, 1.4 lunar distances, 30 meters in diameter. So we got a couple big ones that are actually coming through. So now I wanted to point this out too. This new Langya virus that is found in China could be the tip of the iceberg for undiscovered pathogens, researchers say. I actually seen this on Jacob Israel, and it was very interesting, especially thinking about, the covert identification and what's taking place in our world, basically right now spiritually. When we look at Lenya, is actually a word for, it comes from shrews, which A shrew is a bad-tempered or aggressively assertive woman, right? We think about the divine feminine, right? And Lanya, short for Walanghaya, meaning unashamed, without shame, an explanation for shocking, aggravating wrongdoing, used for an inconsiderate or rude person. I wonder if this virus, just like what we've seen take place in 2019, which now we are seeing manifest itself spiritually and consciously into our world, if this is a description of kind of a conscious attitude of what will be taken on, um, by people that have went along with this process, right? Like, we know that the heavens, the stars have a direct effect and correlation on consciousness, the way that we behave, the way that we act, and all of those things. And, I'm just wondering if we're going to see essentially, some dark behavior from people who have taken the mark, people who have given up that seal of God, as we shift energies. And we know that there's like this emergence or this flow of energy because of the changes in the magnetic field and the solar activity, and they're putting all this, these things out about, we got the Perseids and all this celestial phenomenon, these bodies passing, also adding energies in. I wonder what we're going to experience consciously. I wonder if we're getting ready to see, some people take a really dark turn, is basically what that boils down to. So I wanted to share that. Twinkling of an eye. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed.